Hello, I'm Carla, your millionaire mistress, and welcome back to my channel. So today I want to talk about some things I wouldn't do if I was trying to create long-term wealth and make sure that my credit score was optimum. I saw in the British press that Klarna, the buy now pay later lender, is teaming up with DoorDash in the US so that you can pay later for your fast food. When I saw it, I was like, what? Why would anyone need to pay in installments for their fast food? And then I checked Deliveroo in the UK and saw that actually they've allowed you to effectively finance your dinner since 2022. So as you're coming out of lockdown, people were apparently so desperate to have a takeaway, they wanted to pay for their food in installments. Two things. One is, what state are your finances in that you feel that you need to pay off when you have a burger? And what money management skills have you been taught? Because actually, maybe that's something that we should be looking at together in some of the videos. Have you ever been taught how to manage your money and manage a budget, like basic household economics, household budget? Because you should be able to treat yourself to a takeaway and anything else that you want, as long as you're managing your budget. Please note, at this point, I had to physically go to those websites because I don't use those suppliers. I don't use Deliveroo, Uber Eats, anything like that. Because I personally think it's bad that you would encourage a gig economy, which has basically enabled suppliers like the Pizza Hut or Domino's or your local kebab shop to fire their delivery drivers because those people no longer have any job security. They're hoping and sitting around for hours on the streets waiting for someone to buy something that they don't really need and get a delivery. That's just my personal view, and I digress. I guess my initial reaction is, what's the world coming to? What happened to just good old-fashioned cooking? Why can't you cook for your family? You'll be able to make the same meal for a family of 4 for less than it costs for one burger or one Chinese or one steak from a takeaway. So I don't understand why people don't just cook, number one. And number two, there are excellent recipe options that I will post in the description below, because even Sainsbury's, the grocery retailer in the UK, has a feed your family for a £5 area on their website. And that's an aside. Anyway, what is Klarna and why does it matter to your credit score? And also, why does it even matter to the way you think about managing money and why you think it's okay to finance fast food? There's a cost of living crisis, energy prices are high, all Western economies have been in recession, whether they like to admit it or not. We are in a recession, and if you haven't noticed, the Labour government is slaughtering taxpayers from every angle possible. It's almost like we're saying to people, it's fine. Your standard of living isn't impacted by all of these crazy things that are happening. You can still afford to buy stuff. Only the difference is you can now only afford to pay it off in installments. So therefore, you're not in a position to buy stuff if that's what you're doing. Anyway, I encourage you all to give your message to the universe that you want a lot of stuff, whether you want wealth, financial stability for you and your family, whether you want fame, whether you want this jumper, microphone, car, whatever it is that you want. Encourage it, because as soon as you've pushed your message out and you've identified what it is that you want, then you will start looking at ways that you can go and get it that you want. I also bought lots of stuff that I don't particularly need. But the point on this piece is I got wealthy before I started buying stuff that I don't really need. So it was educate yourself, get the right types of jobs, surround yourself with the right kinds of people, make tiny micro choices on a daily basis that enable you to get the things that you want. So I generated the wealth and then I started buying crap I don't need. Hooray! So the whole concept of buy now, pay later is, instead of you just saying, hey, I want this top from Amazon or wherever you buy your stuff from, you can select to pay with Klarna or an equivalent buy now, pay later lender. And then at that moment, you're effectively accepting a micro loan. So someone is lending you £30 or £40 or whatever the number is, so that the retailer can be paid. Klarna can take a percentage of what the retailer earns, commission, and then you're just borrowing money. Whether you call it a fancy name or don't call it a fancy name, you are literally just borrowing money at that point. Every single time you make one of these tiny microtransactions, you're borrowing money. Previously, you might have used your debit card, or you might have just walked in a shop and paid cash, or you might have put it on a generic credit card. I use credit cards all the time, and they're a perfectly valid source of cash flow management, and we'll go through some strategies for using cards as the time goes. They're great for 0% interest deals, great if you want to buy a car, which I do on 0% finance deals. But if you're just attempting to have that instant gratification of a burger or a takeaway steak or whatever it is, and you have to finance it, I just find that a bit horrific, quite frankly. To me, it is as bad as you needing to take a payday loan, which I know they all went wild back in 2008 at the last financial crisis. If effectively, when you get paid at the start of the month, you can't meet your financial obligations and you can't afford a burger, then really you're in a financial crisis. I am grateful that you're here, because you should be here to learn good money management techniques. My recommendation is that you don't finance food. You shouldn't need to finance food. That's my view. If you think about it, Klarna is a lender. It is a loan company who is saying, I will give you money. They're like, hey, I'm so friendly. I'm making it really easy for you to have what you want when you want it, which is a typical Western approach to doing things. It's completely mindless, and that's the point. Klarna and the other micro lenders' marketing teams have made you think that this is just normal behaviour. And it is normal behaviour if you want to keep in a debt spiral, because that's exactly what you're going to get. I find it a bit disappointing that most consumers don't ask questions and don't ask why they're being given this credit facility so easily, with no questions asked, no background checks to make sure that you qualify. And the fact that the financial system is trying to keep you in a state where you can never quite catch up with yourself. And some of you will be feeling that pain and some of you won't. I need you to start thinking before you press that button and borrow £30 that you're going to pay off over 3 months. Just think, okay, do you really need this item? No, you just fancy a burger. That's fine. So if you just fancy the burger, why don't you buy it with cash? Or why don't you buy it with a generic credit card? Or why don't you cook? Because if you can start just catching yourself, it's like me. Every time I say I'm on a diet and I'm going to the fridge, I'm like this, I really fancy, and it's really funny. You'll be like, I really fancy this. And you know you shouldn't do it, but you're just like, I know. In lockdown, I was the worst. In lockdown, they said you became a chunk, a hunk, or a drunk. Some of my friends did all three, which was very impressive over the couple of years. Personally, I became fatter because I was like, God damn, I've worked so hard, I've made all this money. If I'm going to die, I'm going to eat what I want. That was my approach to lockdown. Whereas lots of my friends, when we all went back to work, like physically in the office, they'd got so skinny to the point where one person, I went and asked HR if the woman had cancer because she had dropped so much weight and she just looked like a hanging skeleton, not in an attractive way, literally just was like skin and bone, no flesh, no muscle, no anything. And she thought she looked great. And I was like, oh my God, she looks dead. What's going on? Anyway, yes. So we all have different approaches to what we do and don't think is important. What I care about is your approach to mindful spending. I care about you understanding how much money you spend, how much you've got available to spend, where else extra money is coming from, and how you use your credit score to get other money and use other people's money to purchase income generating assets long term. Things are details that I paid attention to, and this has helped me compound money over 3 decades to achieve the millionaire status, which is great. I think I'll pause there for now. So you can see my view is microloan payments are not an ideal way for you to get through the month. And I will repeat, I am not a financial advisor. I am just someone that's made a ton of money by taking certain actions. And I would just like to share some of my experiences with you. Microloans are not the way to manage your home budgets. They are also not the way to build long-term wealth. Please feel free to comment, like and share. Thank you very much. Have a good day.